In this incredibly stupid world, your power is determined by your body count. Wait, that was a mistake. I meant by the number on your body. The higher the number, the stronger you are. And if your number hits 0, say hi to Jesus for me. That's where we meet our extremely stupid protagonist, who ends up in a military school where the idiot dies and is given demon blood and brought back to life. Everyone's gathered in class 1A, and Hina expresses her happiness at them all being in the same class and being paired with Licht as a seat partner. Unimpressed, the sentient Rizzler complains instead about his name being pronounced some kind of way. All he seems concerned about is the slit in Farenda's skirt, and whether she may or may not be wearing panties. What a Chad, being able to set his priorities high up without compromising anything. When one of them expresses joy at the length of the skirts being longer in the military school, the teacher comes in and orders her to shorten it. Licht helps with the deduction in his mind, and she gives him permission to look up her skirt after. Where and when can I sign up for this school, please? The teacher makes an announcement about him being replaced by a new teacher, last minute, which turns out to be the head of the school himself. He takes his seat and begins explaining the rules of the school to them and how they can climb higher to become official military members. 2 stars were given to them to commence their training, and he explained that only when they have 10 stars will they qualify to become official members. He also explained how they could get the stars to 10 or more and how to challenge other people for stars without it being flagged as a violent act. Later that night, all the girls got together to change into more comfortable clothes, and I've got to say, there's some serious content in the military. So many milk industries gathered in one place. No wonder they're so healthy in the school. They all strip down to their natural state, which would make any man enter the avatar state. They discuss what the teacher did earlier, which included not giving Licht any star, with the ultimatum of getting one at the end of 3 days. Bad boy Supreme Licht wasn't concerned, however, as he didn't mind being expelled at all. He had no intention of being a soldier in the long run. After concluding their talks, they change and meet up at the hot baths to scrub off. While some were in the tub and others seated on stools, all the glory of the military was displayed without any remorse. Don't worry, boys. You have permission to whip out the lotion and release your frustrations on this site. Apparently, someone already beat us all to it, as the stalker shows up again to satisfy his eyes. Someone with observation hockey sensed him and splashed some water where he stood. Before they could get a sight of him, he scurried into the woods. Poor guy. He didn't even get to finish. They all meet in class the next morning and complain about the creep that has been sampling their bodies even before their future partners already have a chance to. They all vow to get him one day to make him pay. One is very confident because she's the local Sherlock Holmes in her little town, but someone throws a jab at her little bubble and bursts it. They all come to realize it's already the 3rd day, but Licht still has no stars. They all get interrupted by a call to get their attention and see their lockers already forced open. They all check to see that their stars they kept in had been taken as well. While contemplating who took the stars, they hear a noise, and when they get to the source, they see Doan pulling up Sonohara by the hair. After confronting him about the stars, he denies point blank, and when Tokikaze confronts him too, he reminds him of his grandmother, and Tokikaze gives his stars to him too. They all find a solution and share their stars with those who lost theirs, but Licht refuses to take any since he's not interested in staying. He tells Tokikaze not to bother about the stars, but when Tokikaze explains why he needs to be a soldier, he gets some resolve to help him. Murdoch has plans too, as he decides to challenge Doan, but they're interrupted by the teacher who lets Doan know that his stars aren't real. Licht already took off his stars before he went outside and swapped them. Licht decides to stay at the school to help out Tokikaze's grandma. The ultimate creep strikes again when the girls are having a bath, and once again the observation hockey seeks him out. Without any warning, a bowl strikes the head of the unknown melon warrior, knocking him senseless. The next day, everyone tries to make plans to catch the peeping Tom when the teacher declares collective responsibility as a punishment for them. Licht offers himself as the scapegoat for it to work. At night, they all go to switch the sign for the bathhouse genders, and Licht leisurely walks in with quite an image in his head, oblivious to the change. The girls pummel him with whatever weapons they could find. Their initial plan takes a wrong turn when the teacher catches Licht himself and still hands them the collective responsibility punishment. They all wander around in the woods trying to find and build themselves a shelter. Licht calls out to the girls to get a drink from the nearby river. When some rush towards it, a trap is sprung, and they all fall into the river, revealing their figures and panties. Licht, the ultimate panty simp, already strips them down in his mind. The girls, being tired of hiding, decide to let him see what he wants and even begin to strip after he whips out a camera. Shocked beyond measure, he stares at them, not being able to comprehend the gift he had been given. When they declare they'll be excellent soldiers, he loses all his drive for anything erotic and asks them why they want to be people that kill other people. They all give their reasons, and it revolves around their families wanting to protect those they left and provide for them. The head teacher, Sherman, joins them, letting them know they could be a team that doesn't kill, which could be made possible by being overwhelmingly stronger than their opponents. He offers to teach them and assures them he would make it happen as their teacher. Everyone agrees, and Murdoch wonders who Sherman really is and what his objectives are. He follows him around and stumbles into a top-secret facility. He moves closer and overhears Sherman and his group discussing the oncoming war and what they need to do to avoid it. They give a ballot to a rat who survived amidst the others, and after touching it, the rat goes crazy with power. For some unknown reason, maybe fear, Murdoch's legs give out, and when he touches the ground, they all notice someone is around. Before he and Sherman's group could react, a little girl appears in front of him and teleports him away to a room. In the room, the little girl explains she is Nana and what her powers are. She also explains the reason why she saved him from death. The Aces are powerful people who don't need to draw out immeasurable power. She explains she is one of the 7 Aces, and her unique ability is teleportation and time manipulation. She tells him her future self came to her with some information about how things would turn out in the future and to try to prevent it. After a lengthy conversation, she tells him to return or he'll die. He promises that in 300 years, he'd meet her in the future and play with her as much as she wants. As he steps outside and is about to take his leave, someone points a gun to his head and commends him for being able to sneak into the facility. He then sentences him to death by gunshot. He tries for a desperate attempt to escape the reach of his captor and swings wildly at the gun, which fires and misses. He tries to make another move, but the person anticipates it and tells him he hasn't made enough friends to take him on yet. Murdoch tries a last-ditch effort in order to save himself and preserve his life, and also change the future. The man, however, tells him exactly what move he is about to make and leaves him dumbfounded. He makes his last move and puts the gun to his head, startling the man. He is asked which military he belongs to, and Murdoch tells him what he wants to know. He tells him of his adopted father, the general, and the individual understands why they are all there. He then understands Nana can not only travel to the future, but also the past. He demands to know their mission and how many they are, which Murdoch answers. All 4 of them are taken to a neighboring town where everyone is dying of starvation and is desperate. They are charged by the inhabitants who want to get some food. A little boy comes closer and tells them he and his mom need some food. He is given something by one of them, but the captain cautions her, saying the boy won't be able to get home safely if he leaves with the item. They urge the boy to eat it there, but he refuses since his mother can't eat it with him. The captain, having made his point, turns away to leave, letting them know not to interfere with them if they don't have the answer to what's going on. The 4 of them gather and talk about Licht and how they can make his future different from what it became. Murdoch tells them there's nothing they can do at the moment, as they would be erased in the future if things don't go as planned in the present, and Alcia wouldn't be created either. They all go on with their training regimens and push themselves, going on with their lives normally. Murdoch, however, trains with the Supreme Commander so he'll be able to defeat him in the future and become Supreme Commander himself. Sherman approaches them all and tells them it's time for them to receive the training to be the army that doesn't kill. He hands them all a weapon according to their abilities and characters. After meeting with them, he meets with Purandara to discuss the children and the oncoming war. When she suggests they should move to human testing, he gets mad and declares no one would be touching the children. On a sunny afternoon, everyone gathers on the beach with their most revealing outfits. I really need to become a part of this school, though. Licht, the bane of everything in skirts, didn't spare any time at all before moving on to get a feel of the girls and everything they had to offer their future husbands. Sherman came up with a game of paintball, and Licht told the team they could begin their training as the team that doesn't kill at the moment. Instead of shooting, they all run off with the other team at their tail. They emerge victorious without touching any of the other team's members. They advance to the next round, which is Doan's team, and Licht tells them all to use the same game plan. They outrun the entire team, and when they wear them out, they come back for the flag, which is missing because Doan already has it. He chases them, but Licht draws him out, taking him on by himself. He gets cornered into a dead end, which Doan takes advantage of and charges, only to end up in a ditch, which was dug by the whole team to trap him. After celebrating the win later at night, Sherman and his group go over the death of one of their members, and Purandara tells him there's no other choice but to go on with the ACE plan by testing with humans. Sherman is seen telling something to Licht, who agrees with him. Licht's entire group is told of what he's about to undergo vaguely, which they all reject, saying they don't want him to suffer on their account. He does correct them, saying he wouldn't mind going through it if they can all achieve their intent to be the army that doesn't kill. When asked what he would do if he becomes powerful, he responds saying he would still fight together with them all. The day before the surgery, the four of them gather and discuss how to work on changing Licht's future, which Murdoch insists they shouldn't try to, as Alcia and its inhabitants would go missing if they do in the future. Licht goes for the surgery the next day, and while the operation is going on, Doan bullies Sanohara again and takes one of her stars, while Lin is busy thinking about Licht and the memory of her being saved by him. Her thoughts are interrupted by one of them who stuffs food in her mouth after she tells him what's wrong. He really made her gag, Reflex lose all ability, and should have tested one more hard hot dog on her throat to see if his job was completed. Hina and Murdoch come through to tell them all they need to do is to stop Licht from becoming that ace he was in the future. A military plane comes into view, and it releases a missile that kills some of the students, which makes the captain remember what their member said before he died about being tricked by the rest of the world. Soldiers infiltrate the school and begin killing the students. Most of them begin to protect themselves and others while taking out the soldiers. Purandara contacts the captain and lets him know the situation of the operation, which isn't going well anymore as the backup power was needed to stabilize the process. Everyone decides to help Licht get the process done and move to get the backup power on. As they move towards the location, they encounter more soldiers who try to kill them, and they all have to fight back, taking down the soldiers in the process. As it isn't easy to protect oneself from an enemy trying to kill and trying not to kill them in the process, some of them got shot. Hina stays back to heal those wounded, while the captain and the others move onwards to get the backup power on. They reach a room, and the captain warns them not to move, or they'll lose their lives. Sacrificing himself as bait, the captain lets the others move forward while Hina is being threatened by one of the soldiers, and she desperately cries for Licht to save them in her mind. Before the soldier is able to shoot Hina, a bunch of glowing bright lights emerge from the ground, and the group comes back to the captain, telling him they've activated the backup power. Licht is shown stabilized, and the operation is a success as he opens his eyes. He stands up with his trademark red eyes and snow-white hair, like in the future. Sherman asks Purandara for the item so he can give it to Licht, as the children are in danger. His sword from his future is given to him, and Sherman explains how to activate it. He also explains what his current state is like and what he can do now. A blinding light comes towards the soldiers, and when everything settles, Licht is seen flipped upside down. They open fire, and all of their bullets freeze while Licht gains composure and evades all of them without breaking a sweat. He moves with that blinding speed to incapacitate the choppers hovering in the air and all the soldiers inside them. The commander of the operation, rather furious, tries to get at Licht, but fails. He asks why he's not killing any of them, and Licht responds that they are the army that doesn't kill, before knocking him out senseless. Everyone seems surprised and impressed, but rather wary at the same time. You all know that one friend that never fails to break the ice? Genji gets the award as he proclaims he saw a vision of his dead grandma as he was dying. He calls out to the person he took a bullet for, and she assures him they'll hold hands later or something. This man single-handedly risked his life and his pride as a man as he simped on the thoughts of holding hands. While everyone bursts out laughing, the leader of the soldiers crawls out from where he lay and states they were due for a lesson. He and his team strip off their clothes and expose the explosives on their bodies. As he's about to detonate it, Licht moves and takes it out of his hands. He laughs, saying he anticipated that, and reveals there was a nuclear bomb in the school somewhere, and unless they are killed before they activate the bomb, the entire school will go up in flames. Licht draws his sword and begs him not to detonate the bomb. The leader of the soldiers tells them their families get paid in rations of food, depending on how many people they kill. He tells Licht that although he likes the idea of not killing, how would he protect everyone when he doesn't kill? They begin a countdown to the detonation, and when they get to the last number, Licht clears all of the soldiers off the board. The soldier gives him a smile, tells him he did good, and tells him to survive before his head falls clean off his shoulders. Licht runs away from the scene while Hina chases after him. When she finds him, he's puking his brains out in revulsion at what he just did. He steals his resolve and begins to count the number of enemies he kills on behalf of everyone. The four have their time run out and begin to be sent to the future where they belong. Hina now understands why and how Licht became the way he is, and from there on out, the most deadly Rizz was born, the murder Rizz. She strips her top off and places his hands on her firm, round melons, asking him to remember it for the next 300 years, where she promises she'll bear all of his children when they meet again, and she'll never make him feel lonely. As she finishes her speech, she is drawn upwards and disappears in a flash of light. After they all disappear, everyone else is left dumbfounded, trying to make sense of the situation at hand. Licht and Tokikaze explain they've gone back to the future, and they'll have to reconnect with them 300 years from now. Licht then decides to end the war as soon as possible, and do their best to reconnect with Hina and the rest. I know I would definitely want to connect too if my hands were placed on something so heavenly, and that kind of promise was made to me. However, when everyone cheers in response to meeting up with the rest in the future, Licht makes a promise to himself not to ever let them experience what he did, and as such, he will be the only one doing any kind of killing. Sherman, while Ferenda was jubilating about the results of the operation, was rather remorseful and sad about the outcome of Licht having to kill. Later on, Licht faced some soldiers and condemned 337 souls to either heaven or hell. When he got back, he was colder and more distant than before. A younger Nana approached him in the shower when he was washing himself, and they both spent a lot of time together as the two aces. He acted as a big brother to Nana, and she was able to live more happily because of his presence. After a while, Sherman's killer instincts took over Licht, and he became more unhinged and attuned to violence. After his 10,000th kill, he lost the ability to smile. Even when his classmates showed him some of their panties, which used to make his eyes pop before, he was impassive and ordered them not to kill. He started to don a mask and didn't take it off in front of others anymore. The rest of the class complained and asked Sherman to let them fight alongside Licht, which he agreed to, and 4 other aces were added to their ranks. Tokikaze, ace of sudden strikes, Doan, ace of heavy strikes, Sanahara, ace of pursuit, and Captain Grigorovich, ace of explosive strikes. Some of them tried to follow Licht on his mission, and he rejected them, threatening to cut down anyone who disobeyed him. Sherman and his group decided the world wasn't worth saving, and the time to create Alcia and obtain the other ballots, giving them unanimous rule, had come. 2 years later, the war came to an end, and while Nana slept through it, Licht slept immediately afterward and wasn't awake for a while. Sherman and his group took control of all 7 original ballots and passed a resolution using the unanimous decision. They created a utopia 300 meters above the ground and left everything else below the ground. Using another unanimous decision, they plundered all of the resources below ground, leaving everything and everyone down there desolate. Without the means to operate their planes and helicopters, there was no way anyone could launch an attack on Alcia. Using the count system, the population growth was kept in check in Alcia, and only the embryos of different races and nations were put there, so the nature of Althing and the previous world would be kept hidden. The Abyss was the world left behind by Alcia, left with little to no resources for survival. Tokikaze wasn't on board with the plan and stole one of the ballots. Licht was sent to retrieve it, and he cut Tokikaze down, regretting what he did. He later woke up 20 years after and immediately tried to find out what happened to his classmates. He found out they died by taking their lives after staying back to help in the school below and letting the children have more to eat. After finding out what happened to them, Licht wandered around with Nana for 300 years until the others got back to the future. When they arrived, Hina looked for Licht and took off her clothes, asking him to continue where they stopped 300 years ago. Everyone gets to drinking in commemoration of traveling to the past and making it back in one piece, and while Licht is dragged around by Nana, she turns her sights on Murdoch, who tells her to lay off him, but she reminds him of his promise in the past, where he vowed to play with her to her satisfaction after 300 years. Seeing there's no way out of it, he gives in to his fate and lets her do whatever she wants with him. Hina, however, is in a different dilemma as she revisits her encounter with Licht in her head. After trying to place his hand on her oranges, he pukes and says she's too young and should find an appropriate guy of her age to do things like that with. She starts pulling Lin and discovers for the first time there is a massive difference in their products. After trying an experiment, she discovers Lin can be groped, but Licht still wouldn't touch hers, even after flashing him countless times. Having enough of the talking, Murdoch gives Licht a resounding punch, and when he's about to talk, Murdoch shows him a recording of Nana after the war, and all her documentation via video recording of his actions, and how he hasn't been taking off his mask. When he watches everything to the end, Nana tries to make some excuses, but Licht runs to her, giving her a hug, which surprises her. He explains why he was acting the way he did all through the 300 years, and how he wouldn't have been able to live through it without her. The next morning, she wakes up and wonders where everyone is, only to see them playing on the beach and enjoying themselves. After admiring their vitality and youth, she gets to drinking once again, which Licht excuses himself from, while Murdoch refuses outright. Hina accepts the drink and starts guzzling it with gusto. I wonder how she'll ever grow those things with the amount of drinking she's been doing lately. Lin offers to cook for them all and whips up something delicious, Nana compliments her cooking, but a new issue arises when Nana points out the extra flab on Lin's body. She tries to find extra flab on the rest, but isn't successful. After trying to avoid Hina for a long time, Licht gets caught in one of her traps, and she complains about him always trying to leave her behind every single time. She lists the times he's tried to, and even after going to the past, he seemed to avoid her more than before. He tells her since her mother asked her to look for the ace, her mother's name must be Hina Farrow. Hina, in shock, and not the kind induced by electrical currents but by emotional currents, asks Licht how the heck he knows her mother's name. He explains that her mother is their childhood friend, and when he first saw Hina, he had the urge to speak to her because they looked identical. When he saw her name, he knew it couldn't be a coincidence because her mother also lived at the same time he was around, 300 years ago. He brought out one of the original ballots that was in Hina's bag and asked how she came to be in possession of something so dangerous and powerful. He further explains that the ace her mother told her to find isn't him, and when Hina asks him what he means, he asks if her mother ever told her about her father. She tells him that he died a long time ago, to which Licht responds that he killed him. Her father turned out to be Tokikaze, whom Licht killed when retrieving the ballot back then. He tells her the sword her father used was Hina during the war, and that he is the enemy she should hate, not the hero she loves. Everyone starts to feel tipsy and lose consciousness. Licht apologizes to Hina as she crumples to the ground. He drugged the wine they all drank and made a decision to face the army all by himself. After dropping Hina with the others, Murdoch is waiting for him, unfazed, and questions him about his goal from the start. In Alcia, things seem to be heating up as assassinations are carried out, and there is unrest between factions. There is now a dispute over original ballots being handed over to other factions, and the possibility of a mini-war. Meanwhile, Murdoch and Licht face off and have a lengthy conversation about what he's planning with the original ballots, and how he's planning on leaving everyone behind once again. Licht tells him he doesn't mind as long as they don't have to kill anyone and he can take care of it. Murdoch calls him a monumental idiot, and they both resolve to stop each other. Licht takes off, apologizing to everyone in his mind, especially to Hina, whose feelings he wishes he could return. He hopes to see her again after he has ended everything. The capital has news of Licht heading toward them, and Sherman tells them to leave Doan to the job of taking Licht down, as he's been expecting Licht for a long time. After they all wake up, Nana hysterically starts looking for Licht, and asks Hina frantically if he said anything to her when they were together. Hina tells her of his plan to take on the royal army by himself, and when the rest look for Murdoch, they find a note from him letting them know he's gone back to the capital. Licht is seen standing alone in some ruins, and suddenly, he finds himself kissing the ground. Doan emerges and tells him he can't do anything as he's completely under his control. He doesn't waste any time and sends some huge boulders to crush Licht once and for all, but before they connect, Licht remembers his beloved Hina. At the ruins, everyone is gathered to look for Licht as there is rubble all around and giant boulders. Nana's voice is the loudest, and her milkers are also the loudest out there. After a lot of pushing and shoving, they finally get to his body, which lay lifeless on the ground. Nana, with tears in her eyes, gets to the ground while Hina can't believe her eyes. The royal guards, however, can't believe their luck as they surround all of them and cock their guns as a warning. Murdoch gets to Grigorovich's office and bangs the door down, even after being told not to enter by his secretary. He is welcomed warmly, and after a heart-to-heart talk about making friends, he challenges Grigorovich to a star stake and the position of Supreme Commander. After reading his strikes and moves like before, Grigorovich is stunned by an uppercut to his jaw. He commends Murdoch for learning fast after challenging him to those fights 300 years ago. However, he shows him something new, which Murdoch didn't anticipate: the power of the ace of explosive strikes. After he's down, Grigorovich tells him a story about his children who died because someone robbed them while he was at work and killed them for the food they had with them. He declares to Murdoch that while Alcia might be wrong, it is still the right thing to do, as there wasn't any other way to save the world. After being told this, Murdoch gets up and asks the Supreme Commander to stake his stars again, telling him he can't beat him because his conviction is too weak. They both have a conversation that leads to Murdoch revealing the real reason he came, which was to leave the military and just get some closure with the Supreme Commander. After discovering this, Grigorovich tells him he's fired and shouldn't show his face in the capital again. However, on his way out, Murdoch is given a change of clothes, a pair of glasses, and everything he needs, compliments of the Supreme Commander. The others are being questioned by Doan, who is perplexed about his set of memories, and chalks it up to Nana. After figuring it out, he asks where Sanahara is, but they tell him they've got no idea. He uses his gravity on them, pressing them to the wall, but they still don't budge. Sherman comes into the room, and they ask him why he did all the things he did to the children in Class 1A. He is also amused by his 2 sets of memories, but waves it off, realizing it's Nana's doing. He confesses he was selecting his team since that day, and the army that doesn't kill was a test to isolate the weak people. After giving his cold speech, he asks Doan to test the new ACE drug they developed on them, without checking for gene compatibility. As the drug is about to be forced into their mouths by one of the soldiers, Doan loses it and uses his gravity to crush the soldier. Others come in, only to meet the same fate. He uses his ability once more on them, and this time it sets them free. He tells them to go, as he doesn't feel like obeying the order given to him. As they're about to leave, the original ballad in Hina's possession falls out, and upon seeing it, Doan changes his mind and decides to kill them for trying to destroy Alcia. While being pressed like melons by a desperate and woman-starved man to the ground, the 3 find a way to let Lynn escape and get to Licht. However, this escape did not come easy, as Doan used his powers to injure her gravely, despite her getting away on her horse. After she got away, he turned back to the 2, and also revealed Nana hiding behind a wall. Before he kills them, Hina declares that Lynn will be back with Licht, to which he asks if she's willing to bet her life on it. She doesn't hesitate and agrees to his terms, which are that at sunrise, if Licht doesn't show up, they all die. Lynn reaches the ruins and tries to shake Licht awake, all to no avail, while Doan treats everyone to a nice campfire to await their deaths at sunrise. He lets them know, as a matter of fact, that he was sure he disposed of Licht without error, which the love-stricken Hina disagreed with. At the ruins, Lynn remembered something Nana said in one of her recordings, and she also noticed he was quite too clean for a dead man. She tries to resuscitate him every way she can, even giving him CPR. Lucky buffoon, having all the love of every girl, only to let them down. I hope you're taking notes, lads. That's how you become the ultimate Rizzler. After trying everything she could think of and he didn't wake, she realizes she's losing blood, and her consciousness as well. Her consciousness fades away as she collapses on top of him, but soon comes back into focus as she hears someone telling her to confess her feelings for Licht already. She sees people all around her stitching her cuts and injuries. They all turned out to be the people she left at Homho. Her bleeding had already stopped, and she was able to stand on her feet. After some more prompting, she finally gets on her knees beside him and confesses her feelings to Licht, who still lays lifeless on the ground. One of them, who's either very brave or stupid, unleashes a tidal wave of slaps on him, but Lynn stops her and says she understands that the girl he likes is Hina, and she's okay with it. She stands up to where the sun is rising, and as she's about to fall to the ground, she lands on Licht, who asks where everyone is. Doan sees the sun come up, and tells them it's time for them to die since Licht is dead. Hina, the lover girl, objects, and this time, he tries to crush her windpipe with his gravity powers. A blinding light appears, and it turns out to be Licht with Lynn in his arms. After taking an excuse from Doan, he sets Lynn down and asks for her to be taken care of by the group. Hina stays behind, and he finally confesses how he feels to her, apologizing for not being the ace she was looking for. She then reveals that her mother asked her to look for an ace, but also one that she chose for herself. She tells him he is the chosen one, and she's never letting him go, and wants to start making babies already. Doan and Licht face off and do battle. Licht gets the upper hand and is on the verge of vanquishing him, but Sanahara butts in and shoots at Licht. She has a crazed look on her and joins forces with Doan to kill Licht. Doan holds Licht in place with his power while Sanahara takes shots at him. He tries to block the gunshots but gets grazed by one. Sherman muses in his room whether Licht will be able to take on the 2 aces and come out alive. Licht is having a hard time evading both aces as they combine attacks and create new unblockable moves for Licht to defend against. In a bid to end the fight quickly, Doan completely immobilizes him while Sanahara takes free shots at him. Can someone get this Sanahara to shut up? While she might be cute, she's definitely an ace of yapping too much. Doan explains to him why Sanahara turned out the way she did, and why she dotes so much on him. After saving her sorry ass, she became so dependent on Licht saving her that she couldn't do or think of anything else except him saving her. Doan blamed him for not being able to stay out of her life, as she would have been alright without him butting into her affairs. Doan reminds him of the promise they made during the war, and why he is intent on killing him. Licht assures him he never has and never will forget, and tries to get Doan's attention, but to no avail. Nana is swatted aside like a paper plane by Doan after trying to block his view of Licht, and he tries to get everyone else in his gravity control. Seeing the situation at hand, Licht is about to revert to his true ace powers, but he tries desperately not to use them. When he decides there's no other choice, he gets saved by Murdoch, who gives him crap about his situation. They back each other up and coordinate their attacks, leaving Licht to Doan and Murdoch to Sanahara. Despite all of her attempts, Sanahara couldn't land a single shot on him. He reminds her of what he told her at the school 300 years ago about having a conviction, which she remembers, and can't seem to load her last ammunition available. She collapses to the ground sobbing and tells him she doesn't really want to shoot him after all. Lin is all patched up by Pele and Hina, while Doan and Licht battle it out. After Doan knocks out his blade, they both switch to fists and pummel each other until they are both on their knees. They have a talk about the war, which triggers some unpleasant memories for both of them. During the war, the enemies figured out Licht couldn't kill children and brainwashed them to attack him. Every time they attacked him, Doan was the one who helped him kill those children. They argue over whether Alcia is wrong or right to exist, and in the end, they can't seem to reach an agreement. Doan unleashes his most terrifying attack, which even Licht hasn't seen before. After he unleashes it, Licht can't seem to move away from it. In the end, he is swallowed up by the technique, which Doan wraps up and shatters with the knowledge that Licht is still inside it. Licht awakens to find himself inside a world where skulls are the only prominent things to be seen. He tries to use his speed but can't seem to access it. As he tries to figure out where he is silenced by a voice in a mask. The mask tells him he is in a place in gravity that not even light can escape. Not long after, other masks start to appear, introducing themselves as the Aces. They try to convince him to stay where he is and do nothing, as he wouldn't be able to hurt anyone else in that place. Wanting to get back to Hina, who he finally professed his love to, he swings his sword at one of the masks, which repairs itself instantaneously. They taunt him about the army that doesn't kill, his role as the hero of the war, and the countless lives he took. They use the memory of him killing Tokikaze and wanting to use those same hands to hold his daughter. Damn, these masks know how to press on a wound that already hurts like heck. He is about to give up on going back and is already slumbering when he hears Hina's voice calling out to him. Doan, on the outside, getting tired of listening to the talks about Licht coming back and not giving up, prepares to unleash his attack on everyone remaining. Before he does, Licht's ace mask declares that Hina isn't their concern anymore, and he should let her go. Licht grabs hold of his sword once again, and declares to them that he's leaving and going back to the people who care about him. His sword begins to glow, and flashes of everyone come into his mind before he slashes all of the masks. Doan decides to send everyone to the gravity prison, but before he's able to unleash it to the fullest, Licht slashes the whole prison apart and escapes into the real world once again. Doan attacks him immediately, but it doesn't have much effect. Licht punches the Slytherin spirit out of Doan, who lands into a wall. He tosses the original ballot he got from Hina back to her and informs them where the rest are before walking off. Lin recovers nicely, and everyone from Homho comes to check on her once again. After reliving her rejection, they all go out to teach Licht a lesson. The results were extremely swollen cheeks, 4 of them from spanking and whatnot. Pele confronts Licht on how he knew he could operate on Lin, and Licht tells him. Nana sees Murdoch when she checks on Lin and gets a promise from him before she leaves that he would give her 300 years worth of play, which makes her happy. When Pele checks on Lin, however, a bunch of funny events follow as she gets the most erotic checkup ever, followed by a meal in bed, which was quite endearing to her. They make jokes about each other and banter a little. Licht and Hina are alone, and a lot of smiles are exchanged. Hopefully, they'll put a smile on our faces as well. After letting her know it was thanks to her that he could escape the gravity prison, she asks for a reward, which immediately leads to the yanking of her top and her asking for baby making. When she tries to take off her skirt too, he wonders what her mother would think, and she drops a banger quote from her mum on him. Unable to escape the situation, he is cornered and is about to be vigorously used when he is saved by the others. They all meet up and ask what Licht wants to do with all the original ballots. He gives his explanation, and they all agree with him and assure him they'll follow him no matter what happens. Sherman and his officials receive information about what Licht has been up to, and they also begin making preparations. If you want more awesome anime recaps, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. You won't regret it. Until then, take care.